And thank you very much for joining us once again on PM Express. Tonight, I'm sure you may have early this month seen the WASSCE results. Last week, we had planned to have this conversation. Martin Amidou broke, and we had to change it and have Martin Amidou because it is one of those conversations that comes full circle. Free SHS begins late 2017. Everybody was unsure what it meant because there's only one way to judge it properly. It's the end product. The end product appears to now be available for us to assess, which is what we saw with the WASSCE results released by provisional ones, released by WAEC a couple of weeks back. And we thought, let's scrutinize those results a bit closely and answer a few questions that we need to interrogate. And tonight, we'll go into that. And as we always do, we've been pouring into this, and with my team of researchers, trying to break down what the numbers mean for you. We'll start with that, and then go into the controversial issues that WAEC itself had brought up, with some questions or papers being withheld, potentially cancelled, etc., that you've heard about. This is a table that we put together, right? This is a table of the results, right? What we tend to do for you on PM Express is to help you digest it. Because if you pick the results, it's just a bunch of numbers. Who passed what? Who had A1, C this? It doesn't make sense unless you begin to look at the picture. And so what we did, performance in core subjects, this is A1 to C6. This is the trend. So we are looking at over the years. And so we're sort of looking at when free SHS came in 2017 and where we were in 2020. It shows that 2020 is the only year in the past 6 years that more than 50% of the candidates have obtained A1, C6 in all core subjects. The question is, what does this really mean? Is this an improvement? Well, you see from the table here, if you look at the 2020, for example, you see what the graphs tell you. It tells you its own story. When it was first introduced in 2017, as you can see, English was, look at 2020, for example. Look at social studies. Look at the bars for it. If you look at maths, it's also showing strongly. And it's the first time we've had 50% of candidates obtain that level of grades, as we've seen there. We also have seen another graph I want to show you here before we move into another one. This is a graph that my guys put together. Of course, this is an election year, and so this was important for us to do a certain comparison of. And you see the graphs to my right here, as you can see here, is 2017 to 2020. And you see the graph to my left, 2013, 2016, that is the NDC period. It just shows you in terms of performance, more than 50% of the candidates passed in all core subjects relative to 2016, where more than 50% passed in only English language and social studies. And so there's a broader spread of pass marks, as we've seen, if you divide the two. And the thing about graphs is that it gives you a visual, instant account of what is happening. You see the graphs here towering slightly above what you have there, beginning to tell you a story. Okay, so that is the positive side to the numbers when it comes to the results for the free SHS implementers, which is this particular government compared to what it used to be. But the story is not all rosy, because if you look at the statement that was issued by WAEC, and I want to go to that. I want to go to the statement that was issued by WAEC. There are a few concerns there that it raises. It raises the concern about the subject results of 2,383 candidates have been cancelled for engaging in collusion, bringing foreign materials to the examination hall, tearing part of the question papers to solicit assistance. This is basically cheating, right? This is quite a significant number. If you speak to the Africa Education Watch, they actually have done this study over the years and have seen that over the years, 10 to 15% of the candidates who sit always find themselves either their results either been cancelled, withheld for one reason or the other. And don't forget some of the unique happenings surrounding the last WASSCE examinations. The students agitated mainly because they were not allowed to cheat. And then also, across the country, then also we had stories about, not stories, it was confirmed by the WAEC themselves. For the first time, the Marcus contacts were leaked, which raised serious questions about the integrity of the markers themselves, who ended up marking the papers. We'll interrogate what it means, because if you're analyzing the results, you have to put it within the context of everything that we saw in the lead up to it. Then you're possibly being fair to the numbers, and we intend to do that tonight. Now, the entire results of the 480 candidates have also been cancelled for bringing mobile phones to the examination hall. This is according to WAEC, by the way. Also, whilst the entire results of 384 candidates have been withheld pending the conclusion of the investigations into the various cases of examination malpractice. So these are worrying numbers. We've all been to school, and it consistently happens. It wasn't different with the WASSCE and the free SHS. Now, the withheld results may be cancelled or released based on outcomes of investigations, but it gets even more concerning, because the scripts of candidates from, guess what, 122 schools in certain subjects are undergoing scrutiny, according to WAEC. That's a huge number of schools across the country that should concern everybody. There is a petition on this by Africa Education Watch. They are raising concerns. They put the number of students who will be affected based on the calculations from 122 schools at 60,000 students. That's a huge, significant number that we will interrogate shortly. It says, though, that supports the scrutiny of the scripts, because it thinks suspicions of examination malpractice, because you have to look into this. It goes to the integrity of the certificate you hold, by the way, because of the concerns that we've seen. The petition also says, to the extent that innocent candidates are eventually denied their right to enroll into a tertiary institution, look into this as quickly as possible. So those who are innocent, and trust me, a lot of those in those 122 schools will be innocent. People like myself, when we're in school, pretty honest folks, when we're in the lecture, when we're in the classroom. Then a bunch of people, engage in illegal acts in class, and then you are affected as well. You're unsure about this. So get into this as quickly as possible. And I'm curious what the Education Ministry is doing about this quick resolution to this particular problem that has emerged. And so we'll look into this. Tonight, you want to stay with me if you're a parent. Just what says what the free SHS is, what is done, the quality indicators as you've seen in this. This is call it the free SHS factor. Stay with me. My guest is joining me afterwards. He has all the answers, I hope, on PM Express. Thank you for staying with me here on PM Express. My guest tonight in the studio is the Deputy Education Minister, Dr. Yeo Duchum, who joins us on this all-important conversation 2 weeks after the WAEC provisional results came up. We'll be doing analysis of this, and we want to have this conversation. Call it a 360. We started at the point in 2017. It's come full circle. It's time just to dig into it. Was it worth all the hustle, all the investments, all the billions we put in? I mean, some said free SHS held the other parts of the economy hostage because everything almost was pumped into this. And so that's the end. Justify the means. That's it.
Thank you for the opportunity to be on a great show, and also to say a very good evening to all your viewing audience. The end justifies the means. When you come to education, yes.
Okay.
21st century, education is everything. Nations that are going to be the movers and shakers are going to be those that prioritize education. Especially with we are at the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution. Everything is changing. And if we don't get critical thinkers, and don't get creative individuals, don't get Ghana to produce the next inventors of what we may call a new WhatsApp, and don't get Ghanaians to participate in the global economy in such a way that we are leading because of our minds, because I believe the greatest mind that we haven't touched in this country very well is the brain. And we're going to have to do a better job with that. But the good news is that we have begun.
Okay. So let's go straight to the point. Is free SHS the reason for what we illustrated? And facts are facts. We put up the graphs to show this, analyzing the data over the years. Some of the best performance we've seen has seen this year. If you narrow it down to specifics, you might find some subjects where performance was not as good as compared to but if you look at overall core subjects, for example, first time, 50% plus, etc. over time. Is free SHS the reason for that sort of result that we just illustrated?
I think we probably need to situate this within the context of education outcomes and what leads to improved learning outcomes, and then situate Free Senior High School within that context. I see, that a number of people were concerned that increased enrollment in schools would lead to lower performance. And in fact, they were right. If you look at the traditional education reform strategies, in fact, the 1951 accelerated education program led by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah led to a reduced or lower performance, and people blamed him for lowering the standards in our schools. You see, the point...
It becomes a case of quantity over quality.
That is it. So the point of the matter is this. When you begin education reform, that is focused on increasing access. If you did not include in that strategy quality interventions, you are going to create poor outcomes. So, when you look at a program like Free Senior High School, a program that came in and removed cutoff. I have people in my constituency, teachers who say we have to bring back cutoff, because with that cutoff, the students going to high school will not do well. Now, they would have been right if the Free Senior High School did not include intervention grants for schools. Because all of a sudden, the student with aggregate 48 is coming to a school near you. They come there without the critical skills, like somebody who had aggregate 24. So if the president had not seen it fit to do quality interventions, then what they were talking about would have happened. First quality intervention, I think the last time when we were here with, African Watch, they were talking about the textbook per student. And you saw that at the secondary level, the student textbook ratio increased under MPP. So that's a quality intervention compared to the previous regime. The second quality intervention was the idea that the government is giving schools money to use it for intervention, to use it for extra classes. Before this time, before Free Senior High School, extra classes were organized in almost every school, but it was for those who could afford. So if you could not pay, you were excluded from the extra class. In some schools, the sad thing was that the teacher teaches in the regular class up to Unit 3, Session 1, wherever it is, then do the extra class on Session 2 and 3. The next day, he's moving on to 4.
So if you miss the extra class, you
are in trouble.
Was this intervention a subsidy or a full cost for the extra class?
No, this was a full cost. At least what happened was that the government said, this is the money, use it to provide support. But another thing that people have not also averted their minds to is the increased instructional hours brought about by double track. And the semester system that was created by the Minister for Education. You see, when you look at the instructional hours, before we created the semester system or the double track, it was 1,080 a year. Essentially, every teacher had about 30 minutes per period. Then the hours of instruction per day shifted from 8 to 4 instead of 8 to 2 in most schools. Some schools would do 7:30 to 3:30. Consequently, the president directed that their students should get free lunch. So you see, built into this is the fact that you have a longer day, even if you have fewer days in the school year. So while people were talking about, oh, because of double track, kids are staying home longer, they were not looking at the fact that in education, you don't look at days, but you look at hours. So when you're able to compensate for the loss in days with increase in hours in such a way that instead of 1,080, you are offering 1,134, teachers now have an opportunity to complete their syllabus earlier than the previous regime. So people were not looking at these nuances. So most people were focusing on double track. Kids are not in school. It should be a disaster. But they are not looking at the instruction hours. And maybe let me finish. The last intervention that I want to talk about.
Okay.
And the most important thing that you can attribute this to, as a result of Free Senior High School, is the fact that we were able to open school the last 4 years in September. Before this, number of times schools were not opening in September.
I thought,
and then exams,
September we were opening.
Because there were a number of schools, students. If you go to some schools, a number of students were not showing up in school because they didn't have the money. In some low perf.
But schools open in September.
Yes, school opens, but students were not showing up.
You stay away because you're afraid if you go,
they don't have money.
Out.
They don't have money to pay.
I mean, we all have stories like that.
So there are students who are going to schools, the lower rank schools, were going to school essentially in January.
I mean, I guess just a point you made about for the first time you open schools in September, that's not exactly accurate. I mean, what you're saying is that schools reopened, what you did differently was that...
No, actually...
Everybody could come into school from day one.
Everybody comes in school day one, but also there were some years that schools actually did not open in September. But that's even beside the point. Let me look at the fact that even if schools open in September every year, the number of students who were showing up in school and the Free Senior High School was substantially higher.
Because it's free.
It's free. And therefore,
cost barrier was
you have really reduced the loss of instruction. Then another side to it is that students will be sent home to go and collect their fees, right? This time they are not sent home, so they are in school, and teachers now have opportunity to teach. So what the Free Senior High School essentially had done was that it has increased the contact hours with students, between students and teachers, in a way that was so different. In fact, if it was accurately measured, you could probably say it has increased it by 30%, 20%, because now students get up, go to school. They go to school, they stay there. Nobody sends them home because they haven't paid their fees. During exams time, you know what used to happen? A kid is concerned about exams because they don't have the money to register. The government comes in and say, Free Senior High School, I'm registering every one of you. So you can see the anxiety, even among students. And then the fact that there was an increase in contact hours, physical contact hours based on the fact that we've increased the number, and then the real contact hours based on the fact that the students are in school and they are not going home to collect their fees, they are not staying home because they don't have money. So if you talk about Free Senior High School's impact in this result, yes.
Okay, so these are the factors that you say accounted specifically for the results. But you have to be fair also and say that in analyzing the results, you have to put it in the context of everything that happened leading up to the exams, i.e. the questions about the leakage, the questions about what we saw. In fact, for the very first time, a leakage is not new, true. But for the first time in exams, the markers contact list was leaked. In fact, that is a subject of a court action because people who were saying change the contact list, WAEC had gone ahead to use them to still mark the paper, say, they become open to being compromised. The schools of the markers, their contacts, their email address was all available. So if I'm a parent and I'm enthusiastic and anxious about getting my child to pass and I know who is marking my kid's paper, all I need to do is to read up a person, offer a bribe, and get my kids. That is a factor that you cannot discount.
I don't think markers are so unethical. Let me tell you.
They're human beings.
No, they are human beings, but they are not stupid.
Susceptible.
No, they are not stupid.
Like all of us.
No, my brother, they are not that stupid. Markers are senior teachers in our various schools. They know a teacher of chemistry who has spent 10 years teaching knows that if I get a call, it may not be even a real person telling, maybe an investigator asking me to support him. So I don't think Marcus fell.
You disregard that as a factor?
I don't think they fell for that. That
the thousands of Marcus can vouch for all of them.
My brother, there are certain things you don't have to vouch for, but you also have to know that our teachers are not stupid.
I agree. I celebrate them.
You get a call from somebody out of nowhere saying, hey, my son took this course. You see, the interesting thing is that a parent will have to call about what? 8 markers. He called the English marker. He called the science marker. He called
parents will do anything for their child.
But I tell you this.
To get them to the university.
I'll tell you this. That brings me to a very important question. How did the contact get out? Did the student give out the contact?
No. Why you should have said they're investigating? That's all we know about it.
You see, this is this thing with WAEC that personally, not in my official capacity, it unsettles me. They get to be judge and jury. And that is something that personally unsettles me. Because did the student leak out? The student don't have the contact list. So that is something that unsettles me. Because the students are not responsible, but they pay a price for it. Now we're even casting doubts on the fact that whether they did it on their own or their parents contacted the marker. Who leaked the contacts? And that to me is something that we all need to be concerned about because it did not come from a student. But we are casting aspersion even over their hard work, saying that maybe somebody may have contacted the marker. Headmasters don't know the contact of markers. Teachers don't know the contact of markers. It's WAEC that know the contact of their own markers. And how did it get leaked? And now, somehow, it's even becoming a cloud over the heads of the students.
It's also a cloud over the free SHS argument.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Also because the first time it's ever happened.
No, so whose fault? WAEC should do a better job. They should do a better job. It has nothing to do with
it should break. It must break your heart to know that all the hard work you say you put into free SHS, you get to the end of the road where your results are about to come, and then this leakage.
No, let me tell you.
It must break your heart.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Because it becomes almost as the slight fly in the ointment.
Oh, my brother.
Without which everything was smooth sailing.
No.
Because you can't talk about your results outcome without these factors.
No, let me tell you. Unless we put on this table the data from the previous years, previous cancellations, and somehow this was the highest among all the years, then we can make that assertion. But even that, I'll still point to WAEC, because there's a way to do this job without exposing students to leakages and even the issue of cheating. It's been done in other jurisdictions. Even here, University of Cape Coast and other universities have the different versions of the same test, and they've been using it in a number of examination rooms in this country at the universities, where they are able to ensure that you can't cheat. If I have version A and you have B, there's a question 20, which is the same as your question 1. When you get to the multiple choice, your question 20, your answer is B. My question 1, which is the same as yours, my answer may be C. There's a way to stop this madness. And I'm just saying that there's nothing that shows that during this time, somehow there was more cheating than the previous years.
We don't have that data.
Yeah, we don't have that data.
So, but what we know
so we cannot,
is that for the first time, we have Marcus contact details out.
Which was not...
And you need to begin to ask the question, why now?
No,
That's a fundamental question. Why now, if it's ever happened?
Invite why to come and answer. Because, you see, to even suggest that somehow somebody wants students to pass and therefore, oh, come on. That brings us too low as a country.
That's what I said. That must break your heart.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't because it has nothing to do with Free Senior High School.
It doesn't put the dampener on the excitement.
No, WAEC. It's WAEC, not Free Senior High School. The children have done a fantastic job in the face of COVID-19. We should celebrate their courage and the determination of our fearless president who said, I'll do something different. I'll bring the children back. I'll work with parents. I'll work with teachers. I'll make sure that they can go through this. And lo and behold, he did. And now let's look at the results. So I'm not going to use this WAEC inefficiency to dampen the spirit of anyone. The fierce determination of our students have really allowed them to prevail. And this country is better for it, and we have to celebrate them for it. And WAEC needs to put its house in order. You see, we were able to accept students with aggregate 48, no cutoff. And that is why this year's results should be put in a proper context. Before this time, if you got aggregate 24 in certain years, you were not going to school. You were not going to school. And they were all pushed to private schools to fend for themselves. The public school system told certain parents that your children do not belong in public schools at the secondary level. Therefore, you're on your own. And every year, these students were pushed to private schools and they had to fend for themselves. Real tragedy when we talk about the Ghanaian story. And then a president comes and says, no cutoff, use double track, bring everybody in, aggregate 48, aggregate 36, and people said, the president is destroying the education system. How can you allow students with aggregate 36? I got this interesting call from an old boy of Presec, a very higher up person, who said, Deputy Minister, I hear you have sent a student with aggregate 24 to Presec, and I'm angry. And I said, sir, why are you angry? He said, Presec should only take in aggregate 6 and 8, and maybe worst case 10. Why are you sending aggregate 24 to Presec? And I said, sir, I thought Presec has the best teachers in this country, especially in science. He said, yes, that's my school. And I said, sir, I thought Presec had the examiners and the markers. I said, yes, that is why we don't need aggregate 24. And I said, sir, based on my practice and my understanding and research, schools with the best qualified teachers are the one better equipped to deal with those with aggregate 24.
And his reaction was?
And his reaction was, I understand, but I don't agree with you. But today, we have been vindicated. There's a student who I had the honor of speaking to today on another station, and it touched me. At Deso Senior High School, aggregate 26, general art students, has A1 in every single subject. And he said in mathematics he attributed to a teacher that helped him, right from primary school, junior high school, a local teacher who took to him, he liked him and supported him, got him reading, doing mathematics. And these students wouldn't have gotten into a school, would have cut him off under our previous arrangement. And now, these students are getting opportunity and they are hungry. A poor kid gets to senior high school, fed 3 times, they are excited. Compared to my son, who doesn't see any difference.
I thought there's one hot meal a day. You feed them 3 times now?
No, boarding.
Okay.
So compared to my son who will get every meal that he wants, right? Go to senior high school, being fed 3 times won't be a big deal. But some of these children are hungry, literally. They are hungry because they know education will be the difference maker. And these are the children that Free Senior High School is giving opportunity to, so that their talent will come out, not just for themselves, but for this country.
So these children, you say you celebrate their courage in the face of the challenges that we've talked about. But let's briefly on the WAEC question there. I submit to you as the Deputy Education Minister that problem is also yours to fix. That problem with the leakage, the exam malpractices, the questions about the credibility of the results and the certificate, it's also yours to fix, not only WAECs.
I think the issue here is that we have somehow come to that WAEC is an international organization and no local interference and that kind of thing, right? But I believe, and this is my personal belief because there's no official policy on this, but I can't stop talking about it. I believe that whatever it takes to stop this madness, it should be done. Because you see,
what would it take for you?
The idea that a student works so hard and then we, the people in the media, will even say that, hey...
Yeah, I said it at the beginning. I mean, I was very honest.
Yeah. So
that would drive me crazy.
I believe if for nothing, just because of that, this cheating thing should be a thing of the past.
What would you propose? What should happen?
I've already proposed it. I believe that as it's being done at our universities, some universities are using this. You have to have different versions of it.
Would you accept if I tell you that I shouldn't hear a complaint from you? I should hear you say, this is what we want to do, and we're going to do.
Maybe you don't know that I'm a deputy minister for education.
I do, and that's why I'm asking. I expect you to say, this is what we plan or have done about this, because you've been there for 4 years. It's come full circle, and the problem persists. As it was in 2017 when you
I'm honest enough to tell you the truth, accept the truth. The truth of the matter is I'm the Deputy Minister for Education, but I have some ideas, and I profess some of the ideas, and I hope that those ideas will be implemented someday. But bottom line is this.
But what are you doing about implementing it yourselves? You and your the GS.
Maybe I have to remind you again that if there's no official policy on something, I'm even courageous enough to tell you what needs to be done. I'm not supposed to be
saying, I appreciate that, but I guess I'm saying to you, it's not enough. Because you are still in the power. Yeah. You have I have given you all my power as my rep there to fix the problem.
I'm not your member of parliament, though.
Oh, well, as a deputy minister, you represent me, I guess, when it comes to education.
But it will happen. I think WAEC will sit up. I believe they will sit up.
You'll make them?
I believe they will do the right thing.
Because Ghana is such a powerful member, right, of WAEC.
I believe WAEC will do all the right things. You see, we have Prof. Bukwa Mankwa, they sit on the WAEC group, and they are looking for ways to solve this and make sure once and for all we don't encounter these issues. Because my whole thing is this. If I'm a student, and with social media, do you know what happened with the science thing that got a case cited when they worked out and all those things after the exams? Social media send messages to them, right? Through the social media with a set of questions like, oh, these questions are coming. And another wants you to pass, right? Oh my God. The kids didn't know that it's fake news. And some of them fell for it. So they came out angry. In fact, it's part of a report about the student who insulted the president. Part of the committee that looked into that, some of the things that came out was that they got this message and fake news. And now it's fake news to them. But at that time, they thought it was real. And they felt swerved and got agitated and frustrated. But the bottom line is this. If you create a system where students cannot cheat, if you bring APO out, right? Is the APO version 1 of the test or version 2 of the test, version 3 of the test, version 20 of the test? So if I'm a student, I'll be stupid to even take a look at it because it may not be my version. So if all the versions should come out, you're talking about maybe 2,000 questions, right? And if I'm going to study 2,000 questions, I must as well read my textbook. So until we get to the point where you can do e-testing, where the computer select different tests for you and select different tests for me, then the best thing to do is to have different versions of the test, stamp out cheating once and for all, and then begin to, you see, teachers get more respect when the kids know that I depend on my teacher to teach me, compared to a situation where a kid feels like, oh, you know what, I can get support, I can put foreign materials in my pocket, so therefore I don't have to study. So I think if for nothing, we have to get to a point where we all come together, find strategies to eliminate cheating and make sure that we, the education establishment, is supervising, instruction, teaching and learning. Teachers are teaching, students are learning. And that is the kind of future. And by the way, the type of questions that come, if you are dealing with the lowest level of comprehension and understanding, it lends itself to memorization.
What do you make of the fact that up until now, since WAEC told that they're going to investigate the leakage of the Marcus details, we still haven't heard anything publicly about that investigation? You must be interested in that outcome because that is only where you learn lessons and fix it later. But we haven't heard anything yet.
Definitely, we'll get the committee report. I will be.
So there's a committee looking into this.
Yes, of course. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes I don't like the idea of being judge and jury.
Okay, in your call. I want to take a break because when I return, I want to move into a controversial area of this whole conversation with education with him because he's a politician. He is a member of parliament. He's seeking re-election. His boss, the president, is also doing same, and he's been campaigning with it. Is free SHS the trump card? Is that enough? How are people reacting to it? And we'll look at what some stakeholders have been saying about it. Is it all that rosy as he sold it to us tonight? Well, with 13 days to go, is Free SHS the MPP's savior? Stay with me. And thank you for staying with us. My guest is Dr. Yul Edochum. He is the Deputy Education Minister, but he's also a politician. He's a member of Parliament. He's campaigning to be re-elected. Not only him, his two bosses, the supreme boss himself, the president is, and then his boss at the Education Ministry is also doing same. Collectively, guess the song they've been singing. Vote for us because of Free SHS. Is that your saving grace?
Vote for us because of one district, one factory, one village, one dam. Vote for us because of how the president have taken care of everyone in this serious COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, don't forget Free Senior High School. So Free Senior High School...
That's not exactly how the song is sung.
Maybe you have
the chorus is Free SHS.
Maybe you have a different song.
Everything else you've sung is in the stanzas, but the chorus that we repeated is Free SHS.
Arguably, if you go to my villages, right, they appreciate the new school buildings, they appreciate the roads that are being done, but I tell you, the vast majority of the people, if we were to do exit polls in Bosomtwe after the elections, if you did any exit polls, like a survey, I believe that based on what I'm seeing, the vast majority will say that the number one reason, maybe 50% will say Free Senior High School. And then you're going to get others that will say the new school buildings.
So I was right after all.
No, what I'm saying is that I'm not saying that is the only thing we've done. But
that's your trump card.
If you go to my constituency, it has impacted people more than many
so it is
other
your trump card?
Not necessarily, but I will say that people truly appreciate the president. And they feel like, I know a student who benefited. Let me tell you the story of Aduabeng in Bosomtwe constituency. A town that was in its boom periods during the railway times, lost everything after the railways left. And Aduabeng, the settlers there, the indigents there, turned to farming. Every year, they will be lucky to have 2 students go to senior high school. About a month ago, there was a community graduation ceremony when 50 students graduated from secondary school. Next year, they expect 30 more. The following year, 30 more. Within a period of 3 years, Aduabeng will have 110 high school graduates. A number of them, if 50% of them proceed to the university, the town is forever changed. So if you go to Aduabeng now, and you were to ask them, who are you voting for? They will say, Nana Addo Dankwa for a reason. Aduabeng predominantly, maybe 80% or 90% will say Free Senior High School, because the entire town have seen the transformation effect of Free Senior High School.
Are you not overplaying this? I mean, this is what politicians do.
But right? that is what I told you at the beginning, that there are many things that the government has. Then look at the roads. I mean, go to Kumasi. Initially, they were concerned, but go to the Lake Road, the road, if you know Kumasi, going to Atonsu. The second phase, first phase. You
want to have a conversation about infrastructure?
That's what I'm saying. It's not just
where the NDC plays football. This is their turf.
No, it's not just infrastructure. TEF? Yes. Are you serious? Let's go to education infrastructure.
Oh, you want to talk about education?
Oh my God. No government has taken 1.5 billion for education infrastructure. Why did you ever hear it?
Well, they
1.5 billion.
They started all of the blocks that you use to show up your Free SHS.
My brother, let's talk about that. It's a funny, the time is even limited. We came and met 27, right? 29 completed. And I've always said it. Some of them were in fantastic locations, because if you put in a day school in the middle of town, students walk, trot, they are there. If you put a community school in the middle of nowhere, you are in big trouble. Drobonso, we attempted to open. 6 students who applied to go there, when they went there and saw the building, they cried, and we had to relocate them to Achunubu Akudua. You go to Apeja in Ashanti region, Esuoso in Ashanti region, go to Nsaura in Western North. The president recently directed that they should have a dormitory.
So you now to a boarding house.
Oh yes. Dormitories are now being built in a number of days.
Wasn't that the grand intention of the NDC administration?
No, it wasn't. But the issue
because they didn't finish the job.
No, it wasn't part. Dormitories were not part of community day schools. It was never part of it. But my concern is that Domeko Abenya, excellent. Frafraha, excellent. Location, you can't dispute it. But Drobonso, day school, not even the town of Drobonso.
I mean, at least you've considered that the idea was great. I mean, politicians rarely do that.
I mean, that is why I say that when it comes to education, I look at it through the lens of education policy and look at what is sound. And because you see, education now has to drive our transformation agenda. You can't just toy with it and make it a political football and say that if something is good, it's bad because it's my opponent. And that is what is putting some people in this problem of double track. Instead of taking their time to even say that, you know what, I'll give these people some credit for coming with innovation, but probably I would have done it differently. I get it. But if you begin to say that double track is the worst thing that has happened to this country,
well,
the green,
to be fair to the NDC, all the surveys show that overwhelming majority of people like free SHS, but they hate double track. So it's not the NDC, the people say they hate double track.
Who started beating those drums? The president himself said...
Ghanaians are very intelligent.
No, let me tell you.
They made up their own minds about it because they tried it, they tested it.
Let me tell you, people did not understand it. The president in Tamale...
Ghanaians did not understand what their children were going to every day in school.
No, they did not understand. If you have a system that gives you 1,134 hours instead of 1,080, why would you say that 1,134 is bad?
A parent understands this better than anybody else.
No, let me tell you. Let me tell you.
Because my child is there. I know this. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Your child is there, but did you know that
I'm serious, my mother doesn't need a deputy education minister to tell her whether I like double track or not.
Let me tell you, it's not about liking double track. It's about getting the facts. And then whether you like it or not, that is fine. But if you are going to lead this country, get the facts. If my mom doesn't understand, I don't fault her. He's not an education policy maker. He's not a politician. But if you're a politician, it's your responsibility to understand. And even when you disagree, be able to tell the people that I understand that they are giving us 1,134 hours of instruction instead of 1,080. But maybe I still don't like it. I get it. But if you don't do that as a policy, and that's what I'm saying, a lot of people don't understand this space. So they are politicians, but it doesn't make them people who may understand education policy. So you can say, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo made it clear. In Tamale, I was there, one cool Tamale evening. He made a point that I'm bringing this intervention to make sure that no child is left behind. And lo and behold, we have 400,000 more students going to school who otherwise have stayed at home. But he also said, I'm doing interventions so that your children doesn't lose out. Lo and behold, the WASSCE result came and our children didn't lose out. So if you have something that is terrible, how can it give you a better outcome? Well, if something is bad, it doesn't give you good outcomes. Well, so the whole thing is this. You can talk about is bad, and then your conclusion will be, because I've said it's bad, I have to cancel it, right? Then the question is, what do you replace it with?
But they haven't said they will cancel.
No. Double track, yes. They've said they will cancel.
They'll cancel, yes, of course.
But if you cancel...
They said they'll fade it out.
No, they said 1 year it will be no more.
Yes.
Now, my brother, if you take out double track, pre-sec...
In 1 year.
In 1 year. The second year student as pre-sec, you have to reduce the enrollment by 1,000 students. That
is if you fail in that 1 year to put infrastructure to accommodate them.
But if you had accommodated, so why would you say that you're giving some private schools some students? If you could do it in 1 year.
We circle back to
but if you could do it in 1 year, why do you still say that, oh, when I don't have enough space, I'm now going to bring the private. Yeah. Now, Ghanaian parents cannot be forced to send their children to a private school that they don't like. If you are not talking GIS, if you are not talking ICS, what private schools are you talking about? The parents that I know invest everything that they have to send their children to private junior high school so that eventually their student can go to pre-sec and go to Achimota and go to Adisco, St. Augustine's, and go to Wesley Girls. Now, you are telling me, not you, but as a politician, you are telling me that when my son is about to go to Presec, you're going to reduce the enrollment, and then when my son doesn't get into Presec, then you're going to direct him to a private school. Which private school are you talking about?
Okay, so that's a question about expanding to private
school. The private school, is it better?
My final question, because of time, the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools recently says review the policy because it's killed PTAs, and PTAs were investing in infrastructure, which is a bigger problem, one of the big problem PTAs. The question is, will you review it going forward if you win another term?
My brother.
We have a minute.
Yeah.
Will you review it?
There's something called structured democratic voice. I've done the research on it. Parents are participating in schools not because you want them to pay fees, pay dues. No. Parent voice is so critical. Headmasters should account to parents for their stewardship because their children are the primary beneficiary of education. So when you tell me that, oh, because there's no dues, PTA is collapsing, then that means you were not using structured democratic voice which allow parents to participate. Come to the school and participate, not to be charged dues.
Okay. So no review?
No review.
Thank you very much. That's Dr. Yahya Duchum, is a Deputy Education Minister. We'll see how Free SHS pans out on December 7. Stay with us here on PMS. Of course, tomorrow we are back with another conversation. Enjoy the rest of the evening.